one teaching of Jesus that MAGA fights for. Just one chapter and verse. Ask them, and you will find out how biblically illiterate your Trump-loving loved ones and coworkers are. First thing they'll say is abortion. Bible's not against abortion. Jesus is against the death penalty. They reject Jesus. Second thing they'll say is strong border. You're like, no, the only law about borders for immigration in the entire Bible, Old or New Testament, is the commandment to welcome the stranger. Jesus says it in Matthew 25, in the judgment of nations to individuals and nations. You'll be judged by how you care for the poor, how you care for the sick, how you care for the incarcerated, how you welcome the stranger. MAGA rejects Jesus, okay? And they still don't care. The third thing they'll say is, he moved our embassy to Jerusalem. And that's when you have to say Jesus never mentions the United States or where our embassy would be in the year 33 AD. So I don't really know what you could sledgehammer them with. All you can do is remind people of the contrast. All you can do is remind people of what's at stake.
Seats, right? Yes. A while back, I had you. If you go to John Fugelsang's Twitter account, you will see him regularly jousting with these very same trolls, some of whom these are great exchanges, by the way. They're very entertaining because, you know, it's like people love a good clapback and you bring it. And there was one you recently clapped back on who I think they were railing against LGBTQ thing, and then you hit him in the head with the whole Leviticus thing.
Yeah.
First of all, how do you know so much about the Bible, and why are you engaging with these trolls so frequently?
Wow, this is like what my therapist asks me at every session. You know, my mother was a nun from the deep South. She grew up in the segregated South and in poverty, and the only way out for her was the convent. And they put her through nursing school and sent her off to Africa to work with lepers in Malawi. She went from the segregated South to being one of the only white people in her village. My dad grew up in Brooklyn. He was a Franciscan brother. He wore the brown robes that like a lost Jedi of Flatbush and taught history. And my dad was passionate civil rights. He felt the line of St. Francis to Martin Luther King was absolute. And that I mean, growing up in my house, my dad had a portrait over his bed, a collage of Gandhi, Dorothy Day, and Martin Luther King. Dorothy Day, founder of Catholic Charities, who was a rock star. She should be a hero to all progressives. And so my father had this great idea to raise us on the Isle of Long to be progressive, free-thinking, sexually repressed Catholics. And so I admired Jesus the way anybody admires mom's first husband. And growing up, I was a Jesus freak. And I came to view Jesus the way I view Elvis. I love the guy, but a lot of his fan clubs terrify me. When I reached a point that I couldn't kiss the ring with the Catholic Church anymore, I got really into theology and really into researching the Bible and learning the Bible. And so that led to the book I'm working on right now. But in the case of Leviticus, here's how it is. Our Hebrew friends are in Israel, and they finally get out with the help of the Lord. See, what I believe in doing is thumping Bible thumpers with the Bible. Okay, let's assume that every word of their holy book is true. Let's just assume it's all true, because I think atheists make a big mistake attacking them. If you just say to someone, "Oh, you're superstitious and you believe in sky fairies," well, your insults are only going to make them dig in, right? They're only going to think they're more right because they're being scorned by some godless heathen, blah, blah, blah. I take a different approach. I say, let's go to the holy book you wave around like a prop, and let's see what it actually says in there, shall we? Because this you speak of was a peaceful, radical, nonviolent revolutionary. He spent his time with lepers, hookers, and criminals, didn't get upset about sin, got upset about hypocrisy. He was anti-death penalty, completely anti-death penalty, never anti-gay, never anti-abortion. In fact, the Bible is never anti-abortion. In fact, Judaism is never anti-abortion. In fact, abortions are legal and free in Israel right now because abortions aren't banned in the Bible. Jesus was a long-haired, brown skin, that's in Revelation, homeless, community organizing, anti-slut shaming, unarmed, Palestinian, liberal Jew. But that's only if you believe what's actually in the Bible. So the Jews get out of Israel and they have the 10 commandments, and then God gives them Leviticus, right? The 10 commandments are like the Big Ten. Leviticus was like the terms and conditions. Okay. And like the terms, and no one reads them, you just click. So that's what it is. And so nowadays, if you're a bigot, if you're a gay hater, if you're an adult who, after all the struggle for gay liberation, after the crisis of AIDS, after people fighting to come out of the closet and live their lives in a society based on liberty and freedom, and to actually do that, after the struggle for marriage equality, if you still have to be a bigot, if granddad's still so set in his ways, the Christians do this by getting around Jesus, because you can't be a homophobe and follow Jesus. It's Sermon on the Mount. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's do unto others is right there. You can't do it. You can't be a bigot. Jesus never anti-gay. So you got to go around him. So these fake Christians and their flock fleecing Pharisee phony leaders, they'll go to St. Paul or they'll go to the Old Testament. They'll go to Leviticus, where in one line Leviticus, and again, this is rules for Israelites who are wandering the desert after being in slavery for 40 years. And it's all about keeping your tribal numbers up and not abandoning the faith. Those are the two goals of Leviticus. They have no antibiotics. There's nowhere to charge your freaking phone. They got nothing. They had no idea what they were in for. And it's these rules so we don't kill each other. And we keep on making new babies and we don't give up on God. That's Leviticus. Doesn't apply to Christians. In fact, Jesus has this thing called a new covenant. The blood of the new covenant will be shed for you and for all so that sins may be forgiven. If you believe in that, then you're saying that you acknowledge the Old Testament law doesn't apply to you. Jesus has this thing he does in the Sermon on the Mount, where he fulfills the law. Doesn't abolish it, he fulfills it. And he fulfills this by saying, that's how it used to be done. This is how we do it now. He says, he has this thing, it's the closest thing Jesus gets to a catchphrase. He says, you have heard it said, but I say unto you. And in the Sermon on the Mount, he tells you, the law of Moses doesn't apply anymore, not to my people. You have heard eye for an eye. I say to you, turn the other cheek. The entire thing is Jesus not negating the Old Testament, but fulfilling it, saying, you are hung up on the letter of the law. I'm here to tell you the law is love. And Jesus reduces the 10 commandments to 2. Love God, whatever that means, and love your neighbor as yourself. You ever notice our right-wing friends aren't trying to post the 2 commandments of Jesus in any school ever? They're not trying to post the laws of Matthew 25 to welcome the stranger. They're not trying to post the Beatitudes or any part of the Sermon on the Mount in a public school. They're trying to post the 10 commandments of Moses, the Protestant version, but they're actually using the version in Louisiana from the movie The 10 Commandments. And it's got nothing to do with Jesus. And Donald Trump has violated all 10. All 10. He has stolen, he has executed, assassinated, and lied during a plague. He has killed. He has coveted his neighbor's wife. He has had gods before Jehovah. He has coveted his neighbor's goods. Donald Trump has violated all 10. So we can be upset about them doing this in public schools, but these kids in Louisiana have an advantage. Their parents are telling them to follow these 10 rules and live by them. And then they're watching their parents vote for a man to be president who's broken all 12. Kids in Louisiana are learning never to trust MAGA Christians, and they're being taught it in the schools. But this is where we're at right now. So for me, you want to go into Leviticus where it says, you shall not lie with a man as with a woman. That's an abomination. They cling to this because they don't follow Jesus. So they go around him anywhere they can, even though Jesus already said this doesn't apply. You're not a first century Jew. And if you follow Leviticus, you have to kill gay people, not just hate them, kill them. I don't know if you homophobes have noticed the gay guys have been working out. They're ready for you. 300, those were some really rough gay men ready for someone to mess with. That movie was so gay, I came out to my parents. So again, they cling to the hate, right? But also, you can't eat bacon. You can't eat shellfish if you believe Leviticus. And if you believe Leviticus, if these are the rules you live by, then you got to go by Leviticus 20, which requires you to murder by stoning all adulterers. And I'm going to let you homophobes work that out with Donald Trump yourself. If you believe the part of the Bible that says being gay is an abomination, then you owe it to God to stone Donald Trump to death. And not to put too fine a point on it, but to stone him to death many, many, many times. They don't believe in it. It's a book they don't follow, and they weaponize a Bible book they don't believe in to hurt a minority Jesus commands them to love. I want to hear a goddamn Democrat once in my life call out these hating frauds.